The government shutdown is looking more and more likely every day, especially now that Senate Democrats have blocked a stopgap spending measure earlier today. The GOP-backed bill had passed the House and aimed to keep the government open running through at least past October 1st. Joining me now is Washington Stand reporter Casey Harper, who's been following this story. Casey, what more can you tell us about this whole budget discussion that's taking place on Capitol Hill?
Well, thanks, Jody. As you said, a bill to keep the government open passed October 1st just failed in the Senate. It needed 60 votes, but only got 44. Of course, most Democrats voted no. They say the bill didn't include enough funding for health care programs like Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Now, the bill had already passed the House and would have kept things running through November 21st. It also included $88 million for security, which of course comes after the recent assassination of Christian conservative Charlie Kirk.
If Chuck Schumer's negotiation is that he wants to add $1.4 trillion in new spending, the answer is, heck no, we're not doing that. And we're not going to pay for health care for illegal aliens. That's against the law. We're not doing that. They're not being reasonable at all. A short-term CR is not a partisan exercise. We could have loaded this up with partisan provisions, but we're not doing that because we're governing in a responsible manner.
Now, that clip was Speaker Mike Johnson after the measure passed the House. With Congress going into a break, it's unclear if they'll return next week to try again. If no deal is made by September 30th, we're looking at a government shutdown. But also in big news and a win for President Trump, Senate Republicans yesterday used the nuclear option, Jody, to overcome Democrat obstruction and confirm 48 of President Trump's nominees in just one vote. The move fast-tracked key picks and filled important defense and agency roles, cutting through months of gridlock, Jody.
Wow. Thank you, Casey. We're actually going to be talking a little bit more about that later in the program with Congressman Morgan Griffith. What other things are you tracking right now, Casey?
Well, the U.S. vetoed a UN resolution yesterday, which called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Now, the measure ignored key security concerns for Israel and didn't provide enough guarantees to stop violence from Hamas. 14 nations backed the resolution, but the U.S. stood firm in defense of Israel's right to protect its people. That war, of course, was started infamously by Hamas, a terrorist organization whose members brutally attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, killing 1,200 civilians and taking hundreds of hostages. Now, other news today came out of the White House, actually. President Trump had an important phone call with China's leader Xi Jinping earlier today. President Trump said that he and Xi made progress on a TikTok deal and agreed to a face-to-face meeting as soon as next month in South Korea. Now, President Trump said on Truth Social that, quote, "We made progress on many very important issues, including trade, fentanyl, the need to bring the war between Russia and Ukraine to an end, and the approval of the TikTok deal," unquote. So, President Trump also said Xi would come to the U.S. at a later date, which is a big development, Jody.
Wow. Thank you so much, Casey. Appreciate that as always.